Well, here we are at Pegasus News World headquarters, and we got the word that earlier this week the Magnolia folks were having their own Oscar prediction show, and we didn't get invited, so I thought we'd just do our own and screw those guys.
Absolutely.
So I thought, Alex, let's just run the list from the technical categories back up to the big ones.
Sounds good.
Of course, you saw some movies. I saw some movies. I think you ended up seeing more of the Oscar contenders than I did, so that's why I'm not wearing the hat today. Because really,
you're not the official movie guy today.
You should be wearing the hat. All right. So let's start with visual effects, and 3 films are nominated. We've got The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, The Dark Knight, and Iron Man.
Yeah, I think those are probably the 3 that everyone looks to. You usually have those big blockbuster movies that you're going to look for the visual effects. To me, it has to come down between The Dark Knight or Benjamin Button. Dark Knight obviously has the spectacular action sequences, and Benjamin Button has Brad Pitt being transformed from old to young and just flawless throughout. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to turn out, but if I were to pick, I would say it would probably be Benjamin Button just for the makeup and how it's flawless throughout. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I loved The Dark Knight, and it didn't get nominated for the Best Picture award, which sort of disappointed me. And I haven't seen Benjamin Button, so between Dark Knight and Iron Man, I'm going with Dark Knight.
Okay, sounds good. Well, the surprise one to me was Best Original Song, only going with 3 nominees.
Very unusual.
Yeah, usually they I mean, especially with the wrestler from The Wrestler, Bruce Springsteen, he won the Golden Globe.
Yeah.
And I've yet to hear a good reason why they limited it to just 3 songs. Now, these 3, because Slumdog Millionaire has 2 nominated, the feeling there goes that they may cancel each other out and it may go to Wall-E. I've really only heard good things about Slumdog Millionaire pretty much winning almost everything that it's nominated for, so I can't see that it's not going to go here. I think Jai-Ho was the closing sequence one, so I have a good feeling about that.
Yeah, I like the closing sequence one, and with the nod to Bollywood, it was clever. But I don't have any strong feelings about any of those. I really did enjoy the Springsteen one with The Wrestler. And it's odd that, as you say, there's only 3, because how are they going to break up the award ceremony with all their little segments this time? Okay, well, Best Original Score, we've got Benjamin Button again, Alexander Desplat.
Desplat, right.
We've got Defiance with James Newton Howard, a veteran scoring guy. For Milk, we have Danny Elfman, of course, big veteran scorer. Slumdog Millionaire, we have A.R. Rahman. And for Wall-E, we have Thomas Newman, who's another Hollywood veteran scorer. So what do you think about that category?
Well, again, when it comes to music, I don't really have a good feel for how they're going to go, but I've heard nothing but Slumdog Millionaire sweep on their nomination. So, and he won the Golden Globe for the score there. So I have to go with Slumdog Millionaire, A.R. Rahman.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the way it goes. I don't remember the score for Defiance, and I watched the movie, and that's a bad sign. You know? So
very subtle.
Yeah, subtle. That's right. Now, the one that I'm sorry isn't on there is the Changeling score, which Clint Eastwood did, which is very underplayed. It's background, but it's very romantic, and it's good for the times. 1920s Los Angeles was very evocative of the times. So I'm sorry that one's not on here.
Yeah, I agree. That could have been a contender. But Best Foreign Language Film. Well, unfortunately, we have only had the opportunity between the 2 of us to see 2 of the 5. I saw Waltz with Bashir, and you saw The Class.
Right.
Waltz with Bashir was a big surprise to me. I really didn't know anything about it before I watched the film. It's an animated documentary, which is a strange thing in and of itself, because there really hasn't been a full-length animated documentary before. But it's just very powerful. It's one of the best anti-war movies I've seen. I really have ever seen, and I think that it's probably going to be the one to beat.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it. And I did see The Class, which will actually be reviewed this Friday in Pegasus News. And it's an interesting, real-life, it's mock documentary of a French high school classroom, and or maybe it's middle school. It's teenage kids.
Right.
And it reminded me a lot of a movie from last year called American Teen, which was actually, American Teen looked more like a documentary.
That was...
Well, actually, it was a documentary.
Right. But it felt fake.
It felt fake.
Right.
And this one is kind of the opposite. So
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how the Academy looks at The Class. All right. Well, we have Best Documentary Feature. The nominees are The Betrayal, Narakun. We have Encounters at the End of the World, The Garden, Man on Wire, and Trouble the Water. Once again, you and I have only seen 2 out of these, right?
Mm-hmm.
You saw Man on Wire, and I saw Encounter at the End of the World, which is a Werner Herzog documentary, which he goes to Antarctica, and he meets people that are as extreme about their beliefs as he is about his, and so it's an interesting look at his psychology as much as outward events.
He seemed to do those extreme documentaries because he did, Grizzly Man a few years back also.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I don't really have a good feel on on Werner Herzog, but Man on Wire, it was very interesting. They combined just straight up documentary techniques with also recreations of various events. The story is back in 1974, this man did a tightrope walk between the 2 twin towers, and so they show pictures and some footage from back then, but then they also recreate just random scenes between him and like all of a sudden they show him having sex with somebody. And it's not a full-on sex scene.
On a tightrope?
Not on a tightrope, but okay. I liked Man on Wire. I wasn't in love with it, but that's one that I think will probably appeal to most people because the main protagonist, he's just this ultra charming guy, and I have a feeling that
Clearly he is if he has sex with her.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, now we come to what, best cinematography?
Best cinematography. Really, I'm surprised that I knew that you'd seen The Fall last year, correct?
Yes.
And that was one that I was surprised that was left out. I hadn't actually seen it, but I had heard nothing but spectacular stuff about The Fall cinematography. But that's not nominated. We have just Changeling, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, The Dark Knight, The Reader, and Slumdog Millionaire. I'll go back on my thing. I said that Slumdog Millionaire will probably win most of its categories. I think that probably The Dark Knight will take this one.
Yeah.
Because it's not nominated for much else, or it's nominated in a bunch of technical categories, and then Heath Ledger. But I think people will want to give The Dark Knight at least one other win besides Heath Ledger.
I think so too, and I think it really deserves it for the cinematography award. It did an interesting thing with the IMAX theaters that it played in. It jumped back and forth from regular 70 millimeter footage to the big full screen stuff when Batman was, on top of buildings and looking down in the big abyss of the city. It was very effectively done, I thought.
Absolutely.
Okay, for Best Animated Feature, there are only 3 nominees.
Yeah, and this one is you really couldn't go beyond 3. I mean, there could have been a couple others that you would have just thrown in, but you knew wouldn't have had a chance to begin with. But
yeah, so Bolt and Kung Fu Panda and WALL-E.
Right, those are the only real 3. 2 of them Disney. WALL-E is the clear winner. It was the best reviewed movie of the year, basically, and it was. Many people were saying that it could have gotten a Best Picture nomination, just like The Dark Knight could have gotten a Best Picture nomination. So I don't think there's any other way to go.
Have to agree.
Yeah. Best Adapted Screenplay, we have The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Doubt, Frost Nixon, The Reader, and Slumdog Millionaire. Again, Slumdog Millionaire, it's winning every award that you can think of, and this is Simon Beaufoy has won all the ones. I haven't heard of him really before this movie, but
I haven't either.
But he's gotten such acclaim for this. I really liked Doubt. I thought John Patrick Shanley's, he adapted it from his own play, and I thought that he did a great job with that, but again, Slumdog Millionaire is probably going to win it.
Yeah, you're probably right. I preferred Doubt between those two as far as the screenplay goes. I thought it was, it was resonant and it held together and it was almost dreamlike in the way events transpired. So that's my favorite, but we'll see.
Right.
For Best Supporting Actress, no, sorry, Best Original Screenplay as opposed to Best Adapted Screenplay. We've got kind of the dark horse of the award ceremony, Frozen River. We've got Happy Go Lucky, In Bruges, Milk, and once again Wall-E. So I snuck a peek at Frozen River earlier in the year, and very impressive movie. We'll talk about it again when we get to some of the acting awards, but different than anything you've seen, big on social issues. It had some very interesting aspects to it.
Well, Wall-E is a Pixar film, and Pixar films have become almost like clockwork. They get nominated for these best screenplays, and it's just indicative that Pixar doesn't just do great animation, they also put a lot of work into their screenplays. And so I would love to see Wall-E win this. I have a feeling that it would probably go to Milk, which is actually my favorite movie of the year. But that's really a toss-up. It's just kind of all over the place in Best Original Screenplay because these are not the big movies. Besides Wall-E, all these other movies are not that well known.
That's right. In Bruges is one of my favorite films of the year. It came out like in February, I think, last year, and really knocked me back. I thought it was very well done. So,
yeah,
as you say, who knows?
This is probably one of the biggest toss-ups of the night. So,
yeah.